Lovely. Thanks, Emily. And thanks everyone for joining us today. As was mentioned, I'm Steve Whiteside, Managing Editor for Reports and News at WARC. We're a digital content platform that provides the latest data, evidence, and expertise to help marketers more effective. And joining me is Charlotte from HealthAde, where she serves as VP of Marketing. Charlotte, I was wondering if we could start our conversation just with a brief introduction about you and your role at HealthAde at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, I am the Vice President of Marketing at HealthAde. I've been here almost a year, so really, really exciting. Previous to this, I was at Palm Wonderful working on, the pomegranate juice business. So had beverage experience for about 5 years. And prior to that, I was at P&G. So, but I find that, the learnings across feminine care and beverage surprisingly are similar sometimes when you're doing CPG marketing. Here at HealthAde, it's a full scope of marketing. So we have both, we have traditional brand marketing within the department, as well as PR, creative development, and we even just added a consumer insights arm. So a really full 360 approach to marketing at HealthAde.
Great. And as you mentioned, you've been there about a year, which means you joined mid-pandemic, which is a strange time to start a new job. So I was wondering if that presented you with any particular challenges or maybe even opportunities to look at things from maybe a fresh perspective.
It was fine. No, I think there's both internal challenges as well as, things that we were reacting to with the consumer, but the team had already been a lot, ahead of that, as the pandemic had been at least, 6 months in. So, internally, it's hard to get to know your team. You're all working remotely, and there were a lot of new team members. So what had happened prior to even me getting there is the HealthAde team had really looked at the change in consumer behaviors. I mean, I really applaud the agility and the responsiveness of everyone there, looking at how patterns were changing and being so agile to recognize, okay, 5% of consumers used to buy their stuff online, and now 15 or 30 are buying their groceries online. So we need to change. We need to pivot. And so that had already been in place, but that meant there were not a lot of new people and a lot of new ways of working. Also, had shifted from the 2 years prior, having done a ton of events and sampling and liquid to lips. And now you can't do any of that in the pandemic. So the team was already pivoting, and then I came to kind of help and make sure that was, just steer the team continually in that direction. But it was already happening when I got there. And so it's been a real year of absorbing the change, living with it, reacting, looking at what we're doing and seeing if it's working. And I'm happy to say it is working. So it's been a real joy.
We're going to come back to some of the changes you've had to make a bit later, but I was wondering if we could start with talking about who HealthAde's core consumer is, because I think that's a really interesting slice of the health and wellness market. So how does health and wellness maybe fit into their personal routines, their buying habits? And I guess as a bit of a run-on question, how do you go about sort of getting in touch with them and connecting with them on a daily basis?
Yeah, this is a question that I think we ask ourselves every single day, as good marketers do. And it's kind of funny even to think about a core consumer, because there are certainly your kombucha enthusiasts, and we call those the healthiest. It's not a fancy word, but these are the wellness warriors. They could tell you so much about what kombucha has inside of it, why they drink it. They probably started drinking it 7 years ago. They have their favorite flavor. They love ginger. They shop at Whole Foods. They are, in the major metro areas of LA, San Francisco, and New York. They are very health and wellness attuned. They keep those practices as a part of their core life. They're going to farmers market, trying to eat whole ingredients. They're doing yoga. They're doing CrossFit. They're very attuned to their bodies. And that is our healthiest consumer. Now that's our heavy user. But what's fascinating is that there is a huge long tail of one-time kombucha triers. And that's really another part of our consumer. And we're trying to learn about that cohort and understand what is it about kombucha that made you try it once and what is it that made you walk away. And they may be the healthiest in other ways in their life, but for some reason, kombucha, they've not crossed over. And so those are the people we're really focused on winning, because our core consumer, they're very well versed in kombucha. They have their favorite flavor. They know what they're doing with it, and they have a little bit of a routine. So we can learn from them and learn what drew them to the brand and to kombucha in general as a category. And then that's what we're trying to glean in order to win this next cohort that's dipped their toes in, but they're not quite there. And also people that are curious. We know that over 50% of people don't even know what kombucha is, which is fascinating, right? Because we can be a little bit in our kombucha bubble and our HealthAde bubble of knowing we know everything. Oh, they don't, and of course people know what kombucha is, but that's because we live in LA, right? We live in this part of the world that's very health and wellness minded. There is a huge runway to share the benefits of kombucha with everyone else.
You've talked about those two consumer groups, so maybe the one-time triers or the curious. Did you notice that there was an increase maybe in those groups as COVID hit? Because it feels like that focus on health and wellness would naturally lead more people towards drinks like kombucha, where you do have those established health benefits.
Yeah, I mean, that's been, I think, something that has been a great tailwind for us, is just the increase in overall health and wellness. We know that, over 70% of people are now looking for their food to be, their food in their diet to be a key way to manage their health, which sounds somewhat obvious to some people, but actually that's a huge increase versus several years ago. This idea of food as medicine, food as preventative care is growing and growing, and it's largely due to the pandemic. People are realizing, you see articles around vitamin C, vitamin D, elderberry, and now fermented foods and gut health. It's a growing awareness, and luckily, I personally find so much value in working for a brand that's on the right side of history, right? We're trying to help improve that and share that news as well. So we certainly do see more and more people coming into health and wellness, and as well in kombucha. They're coming into HealthAde more. I would say one of our biggest challenges is just the rise of functional beverage in general, especially as you look at the more natural foods stores. Kombucha is now not the only beverage that you can drink to receive a health benefit. So it's not the only functional beverage out there. So we're seeing that there's other players trying to encroach on this trend, and it's a space grab right now.
I'm going to talk about how you're responding to the space grab in a minute, but I was wondering, just before we move off to consumer, do you think it's because we hear a lot about younger consumers being more interested in health and wellness, do you think it is a demographic thing, or is it a psychographic thing? Maybe age doesn't matter, or is it a bit of both?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a bit of both. And what's fascinating is that you see this intergenerational exchange happening, right? So many millennials and Gen Z are living with their parents or are in strong connection with their parents. And so you see this intergenerational influence where the younger generation might be health and wellness oriented, and they're introducing it to the older generation. But also just with the freedom of information and how much we have at our fingertips now, I do think it's a general psychographic trend of everyone having the ability to learn and examine their behaviors that have, they're contributing to their health or not. So I would say it's almost like a grand health awakening. That's what COVID has been, is a grand health awakening for almost everybody, where you're looking at your choices, you're looking at how am I supporting my body with the things that I do, and how can I bolster it for the future. So I don't think that that's a demographic thing. I think that's a total shift.
I think definitely makes sense. Now, earlier this year, probably tapping into some of that shift, you launched a new brand identity and a major new marketing campaign as well, based around gut health. Maybe to start with the brand identity piece of it, could you maybe walk us through some of the changes you made there, and maybe a few of the insights that led you to that process?
Yeah, no, I mean, so right when I had joined, and and they were finishing it up, the team had embarked on a huge endeavor to understand the consumer and to understand kombucha relative to other beverages with the consumer. So a really awesome delve into consumer insights. And what we found was so fascinating that kombucha consumers, different than any other beverage, don't buy the brand or buy the category based on taste or flavor. They buy it for the health benefits. And this is so different than anything else they buy, even juice, right? Like juice, soda, sparkling water, anything else. Those, they're buying that for refreshment, for flavor, and yet for kombucha, they're buying it for function. So that's a real unlock for us, because what it showed us is that the way to make sure that people come in is that they know the health benefit. So, that then built a lot of what we did to the new label. The other thing is, like I mentioned earlier, we still know that a lot of people are unaware what kombucha is. And there's this stigma against it too, amongst the mainstream, of people thinking it's for the hippy dippy, yoga person that's, only shopping at Whole Foods. Well, kombucha is mainstream now. And we wanted to help consumers see that it's mainstream, approachable, that it's for them. It's not just for this super granola person that's been drinking it already for 10 years. So, one of the things that we did is we added here a descriptive line, and it's now says bubbly probiotic tea for a happy gut. And if you kind of look, this compared with this is a little bit of a smile. That's one of those cues, those unconscious cues that we added to the pack to try and make this feel much more friendly and approachable. So bubbly probiotic tea for a happy gut, that tells you what it is, right? Get your probiotics with kombucha. It'll make your gut happy. And then, the happiness imbued in the label is another aspect of it. We also had these characters that weren't working hard enough for us, so we brought them closer to the front of the pack. And we expect to be doing a lot of fun things with them next year in our marketing, just to bring to life that bold and bubbly personality. We realized that our package wasn't cueing who we are as a brand, which is this rebellious, optimist, bold, and bubbly brand. And so that's what we wanted to do, is make sure those things were more aligned. Another huge part of the package redesign was to help with selection at the shelf. So many of our flavors are awesome, but with just, in our previous label, it was mostly a white background and, some colored text on the bottom for the flavor. We realized that we could ease selection and really bring to life that appetite appeal and make this totally craveable by bringing the color really out in the label.
That's a lot of work for sure. And I think I want to touch on something that you just mentioned. You may have slightly answered this, but you're also investing in independent clinical trials as well to prove the connection between kombucha and gut health. And how important is that sort of evidence for you to build a brand and maybe even to build the wider category as well?
Yeah, I mean, we feel like it's super foundational. It's a long-term play. It's not something that you can do easily. Research takes a long time. And it's one of those things that kombucha's been around for thousands of years. The health benefits are widely known, but to be able to actually show that there's a study that connects our brand to the health benefits that we want you to receive, that is an unlock for us. And we know that we're just so passionate about HealthAde and what we can do to improve people's lives that we actually are so curious. We want to make sure we have the proof, even though, anecdotes and all of the research about the ingredients are really strong, right? So we know that drinking healthy acids, fermented foods, living bacteria is all super helpful for your gut. So there is a ton of evidence around how your gut health can improve your overall mood, well-being, immunity, sleep. So many things in your body rely upon your gut. Over 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut. Like, that's incredible. Your immunity starts there. It's fascinating. Your skin, right? If you have a skin problem, you probably have a gut problem. It all starts in your gut. And so that evidence is there. But what we need is, and what we would love, is to be able to show just how HealthAde specifically impacts those vectors. And I think it's a real testament to our commitment to gut health that we're even studying it, because it's not need to have in the industry, right? It's not a need to have. There's a lot of kombucha brands not doing clinical research, but for us, it's important for us to further this field of study so that consumers really understand, the benefits of drinking the beverage.
A question in the Q&A, which for me as a humanities graduate is already too complicated, but I'll see if you know more than I do. So from Eric Tash, he's asking, how important is stressing gut balance versus the pre or probiotic qualities of HealthAde drinks in order to grow penetration and loyalize consumers?
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to read this as well.
Yeah, so I guess it's the messaging around gut balance or messaging around pre-probiotic
I think, to be honest, we are learning about that balance as well, right? So we look at other industries and we look at something like yogurt. And when you think of yogurt, you think of probiotics. You don't necessarily think of gut health. That's interesting, right? But people know that they're eating yogurt for probiotic benefits that will help their gut. We have seen a 600% rise in searches on gut health since 2016. So it's just going up and up and up. And the literature is becoming more robust around what your gut does for the rest of your body. So we're trying to strike that balance ourselves of talking about pre or probiotics, depending on the beverage we're talking about, and gut health. I think job one is tell people about probiotics because that has the most awareness. And then job two is gut health and all of those things that it does for your life. So it's dependent on the medium and where we're meeting consumers as well. So sometimes we don't have enough space to tell that full story, and then other times we do. So we're continuing to play around with that. And the nice thing is with a really predominant digital media plan, you can actually see a lot how that's working. And we do find probiotics helps a ton.
That's going to feed in quite well into my next question, because your marketing campaign itself that you launched with the brand update this year had a large educational component, and I think that's a really interesting thing around kombucha. So, what messaging are you hoping that consumers take away from your campaign, and maybe how did your creative strategy work to make sure that those messages were the ones getting through?
Yeah, no, I mean, this was a huge creative challenge as we embarked on the campaign this year. One of the biggest thing is that we wanted to bring to life the health benefits and yet remain bold and bubbly and full of life and personality and approachable. So how do you do that? How do you talk about something super clinical and health oriented, but still bring it to life? And what we unlocked was this idea of the gut gaze. And bringing to life the story from the point of view of the gut, which was very different than how, most brands are talking to you. It's not just, hey, drink this bottle. It's really bringing to life the gut and the role that the gut has in your overall life. So, and there's also this beautiful component of follow your gut. And what does it mean when they say follow your gut? And it's much more than just your gut instincts. It's really your gut as this gateway to overall health and happiness, which really connects to our mission and connects to everything we believe as a brand. So it was a big creative challenge to do that. And then, yes, adding on those educational components was another aspect. Now, we were careful to do that and to market those to people that had already been exposed to our main message. And, they were already versed in kombucha so that we could only share those with people that are maybe middle or bottom of funnel. And again, how do you bring to life the gut in a fun way? So, if you've seen them, we have 3D live animations of things that are kind of going on in the gut, but then it turns into a happy face because we're not biologists over here, right? We're not trying to show you the anatomy of your gut microbiome. We're just trying to show you the role that it plays and, anthropomorphizing it and bringing it to life and hearing from the actual gut was a fun way for us to do it.
Definitely, I agree. And it was supported by a digital campaign, as you mentioned, that I think was aiming to reach something like 50 million households. So what were some of the main channels you used in doing that? And if you have an impression that at this stage, what are some of the most impactful ways that that's worked out?
Yeah, so what was fascinating, we we delivered the campaign across all of the main digital platforms. So, not only in social media, but also in YouTube. And then we've even, played around with new spaces like TikTok, et cetera. And some in streaming, obviously OTT, CTV. So we played around with a lot of them. What was fascinating is that our 30-second actually drove much more engagement than our 15-second. And so we learned a lot about storytelling. We learned a lot about how bringing consumers in through the storytelling aspects was really appealing, because I think it's the first time in my career that I've seen a 30-second outperform a 15-second. And so that's been a really strong learning for us is when you're taking on a story of this endeavor, how do you need to kind of walk through it and engage the viewer? So it's been really interesting to see. And yeah, 50 million households. We hope you've seen it. And we will continue more next year for sure.
And obviously there's that balance you've got to strike between reaching new households, potential new consumers, and then you've got that core audience as well that's really engaged. Is there a risk at all of slightly alienating the sort of kombucha fans and early adopters, or do you think that they're kind of with you for the ride, whatever happens?
Yeah, those core consumers, I don't feel we're alienating them. We're always thinking about them, right? We don't want to alienate them. We want them to continue to love HealthAde. They're really valuable for our business. And so we try to do everything to kind of strike the balance of meeting them where they're at and telling them more. Even with those consumers, we've done a lot of research with them. We ask them about kombucha. There's still so much runway to go for them to fully understand. Our consumer insights manager, she's got great experience, and we were talking, and in other categories, you ask people why they drink or why they eat something, they have an answer, and if it's a well-established category, over 65% of the people can tell you that same answer. They'll tell you the same answer. With kombucha, it's not. So we still have people drinking, some of them for it tastes good, some of them for probiotics. I think this is good for me. But that's a smaller percent than we'd hope. We would hope to see so many more people having a very clear, concise answer, even amongst that loyal consumer. So it just shows you that even though this category is pretty established, it's been around for 20 years. GT started a lot earlier than we did, but we've been around for 10 years. There is so much room to grow in terms of reinforcing to our core consumer while also bringing new people in. And so we love our core consumer. We never want to alienate them, but we also have other tools to engage them. So in addition to our broad awareness campaign, we have also built a whole suite of tools to keep our current consumer really into the brand and into HealthAde, and to build that affinity even stronger. Because those consumers are really valuable. They're going to the store to buy kombucha 21 times per year. I mean, I'm one of those. I'm an addict, so I get it. It's okay. No judgment there. No, it's great. We love everyone to drink this daily. I do. And so with that core consumer, we want to build those loyalties over time. And so in addition to our broad awareness campaign, we've done a ton this year to build tools to keep that current consumer.
What sort of tools can you do to build that loyalty, if you don't mind asking?
Yeah, so I mean, this year we've done SMS for the first time. We've got a huge email campaign with over 150,000 subscribers. We've revamped our website, added functionality with rewards, and I think, and then also an organic social, right? We have over 170,000 followers. And so we're really keeping those consumers in our world through our content. If you go onto the HealthAde organic social page, you're going to see a lot of fun stuff there. We try to keep up with the times, as well as pulse in with more information and educational content. And then offering, priority deals and promos to those that are in our realm and in our universe is one way, as well as, just constant stream of information, keeping you in that HealthAde family. So that's a real component to what we've been doing.
You mentioned you're relaunching your website there, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit more in depth as well, because that's always a pretty major undertaking. And it seems like the shift you made to focus on gut health and maybe give people a bit more of an insight there, what were some of the steps you took there to help people maybe understand health and wellness and kombucha a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, this really has been, when we looked at this endeavor to become so much more focused on gut health. Previously to 2021, HealthAde had been a fun, bold, bubbly brand that really was about, enjoying life. You brew drink kombucha, and that was really where it was. And it wasn't about the health benefits. That insight that we found that consumers drink kombucha very differently than any other beverage, that they drink it because of the health benefits, meant that we had to change everything about the brand, not only the packaging, not only our marketing, but any way that a consumer was interacting with it. So that included the website. And we also knew that, focusing on DTC and focusing on e-commerce with the changing shopping behaviors, it was going to be important to have a really robust website that met them where they were, that gave them that information and helped that shopping journey happen more smoothly. So that's what sparked the total revamp of the website. And the health content was so important for us to have there. And it's something that we're going to continually work on. Anyone that's done a website knows that it's maybe a never-ending journey to be able to have all of the information there that you want. And so we're continuing to do it. But if you go in, you can see the Gut Health 101, prebiotics versus probiotics, and those aspects of the site will only get more robust. We know that the gut has such a pivotal role to play, like I said, in immunity, skin health, energy regulation, mood, not only digestion. People think it's about digestion, right? That's what everyone kind of thinks your gut is about. It makes sense. That is the role it plays as well. But all of those other factors go way beyond digestion. And so it was up to us to bring that to life and to continue to bring that to life.
Beyond kombucha, you've also launched some new products or relaunched some products recently. So maybe we could start with HealthAde Plus, which launched last year. Could you tell us a bit about what this new product line is hoping to achieve and maybe how it fits into the portfolio strategy more broadly?
Yeah, and so I would say this part of our portfolio truly does speak to that core kombucha consumer. They're already in kombucha, but within kombucha, there's a ton of flavor and variety seeking. People are looking for the coolest new flavor, and they're looking to amp up their health in any way they can. So HealthAde Plus really entered in a moment where, like I've mentioned, with the trends that were happening with COVID, where everyone's looking for that extra plus up to their health and wellness choices so that they can get more bang for their buck and get more from everything they eat or drink. And so HealthAde Plus is meeting them where they were if they're already a kombucha drinker. So we launched with 7 different need states and options for consumers to get their kombucha benefits, but with a little bit more. And each of the items has added adaptogens or supplements to help achieve those goals. And at a premium price point, you kind of understand, well, they've added L-theanine for my mood, if you're thinking about the happy item. So it makes sense that that's there. We've learned that some of these have really resonant benefits, and then some of them are more occasional and consumers are dipping into them only occasionally because they're maybe not looking for that benefit from kombucha. So we have learned a lot in the year that proposition has been on the marketplace around how functional and mood states can be somewhat niche, right, compared to the overall applicability of kombucha. But things like belly reset and immunity, that's what consumers are coming to kombucha for anyways. And so this line has done a great job of showing people you can get even more of what you're looking for when you buy HealthAde Plus.
So it sounds to me like that's almost an additive to their buying habits. You're not cannibalizing one with the other. You're giving them an extra option for, as you say, particular need states or wants.
Yes, and that's exactly the idea behind it. Is that it's a trade up and a potential extra occasion for consumers when they're in the kombucha category.
And you've also relaunched HealthAde Pop, and that seemed like maybe a more mainstream way to get kombucha in people's hands, but I don't want to put words in your mouth there. So feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But that seems like an interesting addition to the portfolio too on that side of things.
Yeah, HealthAde Pop. What we've learned, and this is again, HealthAde Booch Pop had launched last year in June, and we learned and watched how it was doing in the marketplace, and then embarked on a ton of consumer research to dig deeper. And what we learned is that there are some consumers, it was really confusing, to be honest, as a proposition, calling it Booch Pop. Is it kombucha or is it pop soda? And we learned that we've already got a great kombucha product. Consumers don't need kombucha. What they are looking for is function, but also with great flavor. And so by repositioning this as pop and really reworking the formula, we're now meeting them where they're at, because this is the part of our portfolio that's very different than kombucha. With kombucha, we talked about how consumers are really looking for those health benefits first and foremost. They'll accept the vinegary, strong flavor of a kombucha and then eventually love it. They will, I promise. After several tries, it's an acquired taste. For some people, they love it right away. But with pop, we don't want to give them any hurdles. They want their health benefits, but they also want flavor. And there's a huge segment of the population that's looking for that. And so we saw this growing trend of what we call the healthy-ish. So with kombucha, it's the healthiest. With pop, it's the healthy-ish, right? They're not looking to be, focused on their health 24/7. They're not trying to optimize and tweak and watching every calorie they eat. They just want to make a few better choices in the day. And they want you to make it easy for them. We know that so many people are walking away from CSD. Everyone, that's a huge thing that's happened over the past decade, and it's only continuing. As they leave soda, they're looking for better for you options. They don't want artificial ingredients, but they also loved soda for the taste. And so how can we deliver something that gives them the benefits and the flavor? So that's what we really, really focused on this year with moving from Booch Pop to Pop, and how do we work it to meet those needs? So Pop is the answer. It's not kombucha. It's a prebiotic soda, and it's for a happy gut. So and it's also low in sugar and only 35 calories. So it's an amazing solution. I don't know about you, Steve, but when I drink sparkling water, I'm like, meh, didn't quite do it for me. Pop is the way that you can kind of get more flavor, more function versus what everyone's been playing with in the past few years.
I'm definitely healthy-ish, so I feel like I've been effectively segmented there, because that sounded a lot like me. So you got it right for one person at least, so that's good. I think going at a slightly more macro level than we've been talking about, but as a sort of voting confidence, I think, in what you guys have been doing. First Bev acquired a stake in, a controlling stake even in HealthAde earlier this year. And that resulted in one of your co-founders becoming a chief mission officer, which is quite an intriguing job title. So I was wondering if you could explain what that means in practice.
Yeah, so I mean, if you talk to Dinah Trout, one of our 3 co-founders, she'll call this her promotion. So she was promoted to chief mission officer, and this has been a really cool thing for HealthAde. And we're still, we're only 2 months post transaction, but this is now allowing us to truly tap into what we believe as a business and as a brand. So our mission is to inspire you to discover the power of your gut and become your happiest and healthiest self. What an amazing mission. I mean, it's what brought me to HealthAde, and it's what I know consumers love about HealthAde. And there's so much room to talk about that more. So she'll be focused on how do we bring this to life in everything that we do. We've talked about the clinical research. She will be advancing our gut health endeavors in that realm and beyond, so that we are really leading the science and the expertise in gut health as a company. And, that may involve more research, that may be, connecting with the right other affiliate organizations that are looking at this. And so it's going to be huge for us. to be able to have her dedicated to furthering and advancing that mission. It's also, following your gut is also about following your gut and living authentically and pursuing what makes you happiest. And so there's opportunities for us to bring her story to life. Now that she's freed up a little bit, when you're the CEO, there's only so much we can do to share the story that created HealthAde, but it's a really inspirational story of how Justin, Dinah, and Vanessa followed their gut, created something that they fully believed in and brought it to the world. And now that's this amazing business. So there's a lot of room there. And then, there's another aspect of this to where you can't be our happiest selves if our planet is not our happiest self. So we do a lot, our planet and the people on it. We do a lot at HealthAde to give back and to be a responsible company. And yet that's not one of our key messages. And it's not something that's first and foremost, because our focus has not been on that in terms of marketing or messaging. But now with Dinah at the helm as Chief Mission Officer, there's going to be more opportunities to tell those stories as well. Because we know that consumers are increasingly wanting to only affiliate with companies that affiliate with their own values and that share their own values in terms of responsibility, to both the people that we live with, our communities, as well as the world. So we're really excited about all of the potential that this has to bring the mission and the equity of HealthAde to life.
We've only got a couple of minutes yet left, so I'm going to end with a couple of questions that the Journalist Union would almost demand that I ask you. The first one being, as you think about 2022, what are some of the big challenges you think might be coming down the road in the next 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, if I really look at a macro level, supply chain pressures are on everyone. So that's a fun one, but we won't go into that because this is a Brand Innovators conversation. But I think, the two things that are on my mind is growing pop. We've recently repositioned it, and we know that this has such a potential. It's shelf stable. It can be brought on the go. It doesn't have to be cold like kombucha. And so how can we bring pop to the masses and help them get the prebiotic benefits that are so good for their gut and transform their beverage experience? So that's huge for us. We need to get it into more doors. We need to make sure people know about it. It's so delicious, and it's such a smart swap for anything that you're drinking. That's one of the things that we're going to be really focusing and doubling down on in 2022. The next one is sort of a moving target, and I don't know what it will look like, but we need to meet the consumer where they are, right? I hope that 2022 looks a lot different than 2021. I think we all do. And so we're watching and looking ahead and seeing how are we going to make sure that we are where they're at. For example, messages around nostalgia and, that cozy familiarity of years past, that really resonated in 21. But in 2022, we're thinking that consumers are going to be looking for new. They're going to be out back in the world, experiencing events, living their life, looking to reconnect. We've already seen that starting to happen, but now it's not going to be about necessarily nostalgia. It's going to be about taking this new COVID self that you have created. And, a lot of people have focused in on their personal health and wellness. And how do you integrate that into the real world and into society? And so we're really thinking about macro insights like that and how that will feed into our future campaigns.
One very last quick question. You may slightly have answered it already, but is there anything else that's really exciting you about next year?
I mean, more marketing. I think that's what's been great with the First Bev transaction and with where we're at as a company is that everyone believes in the power of sharing our message and sharing our marketing. And so we're going to be doubling down and investing in marketing in a big way, because we have so much room ahead to bring more people into kombucha and more people into HealthAde. So I'm excited about what it brings. We'll have new campaigns and some amazing new products as well. So stay tuned for that. We have some awesome seasonal rotational flavors that'll come out and just more fun things ahead.
Great, thanks so much, Charlotte. And I see you're with us, Emily, which is probably a sign that we should be being strong-armed out the door.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. That was so amazing and really exciting to hear about everything that you guys are doing at HealthAde Charlotte. I'm excited to try POP, definitely on my to-do list now. And I just love hearing the story behind the company and, following your gut, not just, physically, but also your mental, choices as well. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Steve, for moderating.